South Africa's fight against corruption has taken another major step. The National Prosecuting Authority has confirmed that assets worth a staggering 326 million rand, linked to the alleged Tembisa hospital corruption syndicate, have officially been forfeited to the state. According to NPA spokesperson Kaiser Kaganyago, these assets will now be sold, with the money recovered going back to the state after it was allegedly looted through corruption at the hospital. The move is being seen as a significant victory in the battle against corruption, sending a strong message that crime should not pay. Authorities say the asset forfeiture unit will continue targeting the proceeds of crime to ensure those responsible do not benefit from stolen public funds. The alleged corruption at Tembisa Hospital has sparked public outrage, with many South Africans demanding justice and accountability, especially after years of concerns about the misuse of money meant for healthcare services. As investigations continue, many will be watching closely to see whether more arrests and convictions follow. Do you think selling these assets is enough, or should those responsible face even tougher consequences? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications for more breaking news updates. #Newsroom405.
Definitely, good afternoon to you and the viewers. These are the assets that were today forfeited to the state. And what we are now having is to have all of those properties and then recover the money that would have been stolen from the Tembisa hospital.
Interesting that, they were given an opportunity to actually oppose the application, and no one did.
No, definitely. When we, last year when the NPA went to court, it was in August, it was done where we freeze the properties. That is done without them being given an opportunity to defend. And then when we go to the final order, we give them an opportunity to defend. And in this case, they did not defend the matter, and the matter was then, the order was then granted to us. And we comfortable now. These properties and the cars are now the properties of the state, and they will be monetized as soon as possible.
And the proceeds of the sale of all the assets then, what, goes back to the Gauteng Department of Health?
No, we are not taking it back to the Gauteng Department of Health. We're going to be taking the money to the CARA fund, but we are going to ring-fence it for the use by the Department of Health in Gauteng. And the reason behind that is we were afraid that if the money is then taken back to the department, it might end up in the wrong hands again and be misused. Therefore, when it is in the CARA fund, ring-fenced, we'll have a situation where the department will have to apply and give clear reasons and the project that they are going to use the money for before it can be released to them.
And who will have a final say in how the funds will be utilized?
Yeah, when they apply to CARA fund, they then have to bring the projects that they are going to do, exactly how much they need for those projects and what the money is going to be used for. And that the decision will be made by the CARA Fund Committee, which is in the Department of Justice. And then they will also monitor that it be used for what it was intended for.
Remind us again of the whole purpose of dealing with things this way, as opposed to, say, just taking the money and giving it to back to the people who were robbed of it by these syndicates in the first place.
Yeah, we're doing this basically in order to protect that the money cannot be misused again, so that we're able to then go back and then do investigations again about the same money that we would have recovered. Therefore, in this way, we're able to monitor that the money is used, even if it is not for a specific hospital, but it is used for what they would have applied for. And that is how CARA Fund will monitor that. Therefore, all we are saying is we have got 326 million or whatever amount that we will get after the sale. And then this is what you can use. Tell us what you're going to use it for so that we can monitor you.
So that's where we want to leave it. Kaiser Khanyago, spokesperson for the National Prosecuting Authority. Of course, this corruption network was first flagged by Gauteng Department of Health's chief accountant, and that's Babita Diokaran, who was subsequently killed. But before her assassination, she actually identified the suspicious transactions and then started flagging them, and of course, unfortunately, paid the price for it. She was gunned down outside her home after submitting reports identifying the irregular payments. May her soul rest in peace.
If you know that you're doing what is wrong in these areas, it might take a little longer sometimes, but we'll get to you. And that is something that you don't want to be involved in. But also the forfeiture in itself, as we said even in the statement, the National Director of Public Prosecution is clearly saying that we using the asset forfeiture tool to make sure that we disarm these people to not use the same money that they would have stolen from government to fight government with it. Therefore, if we take that away from them and then there are charges against them, they cannot use this money. They must use their own money to fight the state.
The DA welcomes the interim report of the SIU, which has detailed how more than 2 billion rand was siphoned off by 9 criminal syndicates from the Tembisa hospital over 4 years. This was achieved through a network of fake companies charging outrageous prices for goods that weren't even delivered. We have seen the luxury furniture, cars and artwork seized by the asset forfeiture unit from the house of Mr. Angwani Morgan Maumela, the kingpin of the largest syndicate which got 816 million rand in fraudulent contracts from the hospital. Now we know that Mr. Maumela has strong ruling party connections, including a reported association with Mr. Benjadi Chauke, who is close to President Cyril Ramaphosa, and he is the cousin of Andile Ramaphosa, the president's son from his first marriage. People are justifiably outraged by the contrast between Maumela's luxury living and the poor conditions for patients at the overcrowded and dilapidated Tembisa hospital. We have seen how former Gauteng Premier hid a 3 million rand Aston Martin in her garage. Now we see Mr. Maumela's fleet of even more expensive cars, including 3 Lamborghinis that cost more than 80 million rand. Now, this is what you've got. You know, 3 of these. Can you just imagine? I mean, you know, makes former Premier look like a cheapskate with her Aston Martin. You know, now, the 2 billion rand stolen from Tembisa Hospital could have paid for 500 more doctors in a year, 1,000 more nurses, 20 MRI machines, another 20 CAT scan machines, 10 new clinics, 4 LINAC radiation machines, and 500 ICU beds. On their own, just these Lamborghinis could have bought 2 desperately needed MRI machines that would have saved the lives of hundreds of patients. It is outrageous that people are stealing money that is meant for healing. The DA will leave no stone unturned in recovering this money so it can be spent in our hospitals and clinics. We are saying today, pay back the money.
I have household furniture and appliances. I do have a post-graduate qualification, which is a VAT degree from the University of Belgium.
2 billion rands get stolen from our public hospitals, and instead of asking, where did the money go? Foreigners are the reason you can't get medicine. Can someone please explain to me why the politicians who are stealing billions from our public hospitals are driving G-Wagons, and instead of demanding accountability, your first instinct is to blame foreigners? How does that make any sense? Do you understand how stupid that sounds? It's like seeing a man who just walked in on his wife cheating on him, and instead of holding her accountable, he turns around and starts screaming at his next door neighbor. That's who you are. You're just watching as your government lies to you, steals from you, and spits in your face. And somehow, it's the foreigners who are breaking our laws. This is just embarrassing. You guys do realize that corruption is also illegal, right? I don't mean to be rude, but if this is how South Africans think every day, we're in serious trouble. And these are the same people we are trusting to vote in next year's election. You voted for criminals to be in charge of our hospitals. And now you're confused that our hospitals are falling apart. How? No wonder this country is a mess. And please, stop saying there's an influx of illegal immigrants in South Africa. I've said this before, and I'll say it again. There is zero evidence showing that there is a massive influx of undocumented immigrants in South Africa. The only real influx that's happening in this country is the influx of people who lack critical thinking. Stats SA, the country's most credible and trusted source on population data, has denied the sensational claims made by xenophobic movements like Operation Dudula. Stats SA has never released an official figure for undocumented immigrants. Opportunists like Jacinta Ngobisi are using your economic frustration to stir up racial hatred. If you heard a white woman saying the same things that Jacinta says about Africans, you'd call her racist. Foreigners have been living in South Africa and using our public health care since 1994. Just because the hospital was full on Tuesday means nothing. The only thing that has changed is how much your government steals. This is why corruption thrives in this country. South Africans have lost the ability to hold their leaders accountable. Instead of going after corrupt officials, we go after desperate people who have no power, as if that's going to change anything. But hey, keep chasing immigrants so that our politicians can continue stealing in peace. These people who you voted for have offshore bank accounts, passports, and they are prepared to bounce the moment this country collapses. You're the one who's going to be left behind, angry and broke.
I've been in South Africa for 11 years. And those 11 years, I would describe them as traumatic years because I didn't have permit all throughout those 11 years. The same thing with my husband. My husband was in South Africa for 12 years because I and my son, we went to meet him in 2015. So since then, it has been from one struggle to another, no job, no stable job, because there was no permit. Then hatred, no health care for foreigners. I can say that. I gave birth to two of my daughters in South Africa. I had my son here in Nigeria before moving to join my husband in South Africa in 2015. When I gave birth to my first daughter, I felt so bad because on the day that I gave birth, I was asked to clean the hospital floor because I was bleeding. Immediately I gave birth, I started bleeding. So one of the nurses came there. The moment she was talking to me in one of their languages, and she noticed that I couldn't respond. So that tells her that I am a foreigner. So she started telling me to clean the floor. Can you imagine that trauma? You know, that psychological trauma that I'm not wanted here. I'm being treated as if I'm not human just because I'm not a South African. So I can begin to recount several experiences, bad ones at that, just being a foreigner because I'm not a South African. Even my children at school, at times they are deprived of awards because they are not South Africans. Several times they come home from school crying that, Mom, what is it? Is it because we are not South Africans? That is why they are robbing us. So a whole lot of experience. But all in all, I want to thank God. We are back home. And I want to thank the Nigerian government and everyone involved in this. I just want to tell them that God bless them, because this is a great opportunity. And I thank God that I and my family, we made use of this great opportunity. Once again, I want to say thank you to the Nigerian government and everyone involved in this. I say God bless them. Thank you.
This is corruption at a staggering scale. Tembisa Hospital, 2 billion rand siphoned out of it.
There were transactions that were done, the POs, but the modus operandi was that they would do all these transactions. They are not necessarily tenders. They would just do transactions that are below 500,000, and they do many of them to the point that it reaches 2 billion rand.
Let me just interject this, so just so that we understand the terms of these officials. You're saying there are about 15 officials that were helping these criminals loot the money, and they were receiving to the value of 115 million rand paid out to these officials, 15 of them. 122 million rand paid out to these officials. When you're saying clerk, these are all people that are working at Tembisa hospitals.
Some are in Tembisa Hospital, some are in the Department of Health in the province.
I don't even know if I want to call him businessman, but we've got, the Maumela businessman, the Maumela Syndicate that's linked to businessman Hangwani Morgan Maumela.
He generally got the biggest chunk of this 2 billion rand. I think over 800 million went to this syndicate. And then he bought properties. There were properties to the value of one of the properties in Bantry Bay he bought for 75 million. And he then, cash alone, he has bought cash to the value of more than 238 million. Cash alone. And then the others are properties in KZN, in Gauteng, in the Western Cape, Thames Bay, and all of those places. All of those are the properties that this particular syndicate bought.